Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to share a story, not just any story, but a story of resilience wrapped in solitude, of silent moments that speak volumes, and of a journey many women know but few dare to tell. It's the story of a woman with no friends. Imagine for a moment waking up to a world that often preaches connection, yet feeling the absence of that comforting bond that friendship brings. There she is, this woman, walking into rooms alone, sipping her coffee in quiet contemplation, watching the laughter of others with a mix of longing and determination. But do not mistake her solitude for weakness. No, this woman has a strength forged in the fires of her own self-reflection. She knows that there's an unspoken stigma surrounding her. Society loves its labels, doesn't it? Unapproachable, they may say. Independent to a fault, or she just can't keep friends. But what they don't see is the choice, the journey, the battle she's fought to stand in her truth without needing validation from the crowd. They don't see the night she sat with her own thoughts, peeling back the layers of who she is, finding her worth without the echo of others to define it. Oh, how easy it is to judge. But let me tell you this, there is power in that silence. There is grace in the spaces where she finds herself alone. This woman, without a best friend to lean on, has learned to be her own champion. She holds herself together when the weight of the world feels like too much. And in those moments, she isn't just surviving, she's discovering who she truly is. We live in a world where the number of friends you have is somehow seen as a measure of your value. But let me remind you, real connection isn't only found in the big circles that shout your name, but in the deep, quiet moments where you hold your head high and walk forward anyway. She finds connection in the pages of a book, in the music that stirs her soul, and in the whispered affirmations she tells herself each morning. And when she meets a kindred spirit, even if it's once in a blue moon, she cherishes it all the more. So if you are that woman, or you know her, remember this: you are not less for the friends you don't have. You are more for the courage you show when no one is watching, the battles you fight in the silence of your heart, and the power you wield that no one can take away. To the woman who walks her path alone, you are seeing you are strong and you are more than enough. Embrace that truth and let it set your spirit free. Picture this: a woman who rises each morning to the sound of her alarm, her day unfolding with no calls or texts from friends waiting to greet her. She moves through her home, sipping her coffee as she stares out the window, seeing the world rush by in a whirl of shared moments, laughter, and conversation. But for her, the silence is palpable. It fills the room, the hallways, the spaces between her thoughts. This isn't just physical isolation, it's emotional and psychological. It's the kind of loneliness that seeps in when there's no one to share that funny moment, no one to call when the weight of the day feels heavier than usual. Yet she carries on. She goes about her routine, holds her head high when she steps out the door, and faces the world with a composed smile that tells a story few are interested in hearing. The silent struggle of being a woman with no friends is often misunderstood. It's easy to label her as distant, withdrawn, or aloof. Society tends to make quick judgments about why someone might be alone, pinning reasons that range from too independent to too difficult without a second thought. But behind those labels, there lies a story woven with complexity. There are countless reasons a woman may find herself without friends. Perhaps she once had deep, cherished bonds that unraveled over time, slipping through her fingers like sand as life pulled everyone in different directions. Or maybe she spent years investing in relationships that turned out to be one-sided, leaving her with a sense of betrayal so profound she found it easier to guard her heart than risk opening it again. Some women have been so fiercely dedicated to their families, careers, or personal missions that the years passed by, and one day they looked up to find they had left little room for friendships to grow. This silent struggle is not just marked by absence, but by the way it shapes her world. It's waking up to a calendar without plans, watching a movie alone that others see with a group, or seeing photos of gatherings on social media that remind her of what she's missing. It's the pang she feels when she watches women around her share knowing glances, secret laughs, and inside jokes. But here's the thing, these moments don't define her, nor do they diminish her. What many fail to see is that in the heart of this isolation, she's fighting a battle every day. A battle to remind herself that her worth is not tied to the number of people who call her a friend, that her value isn't diminished by the empty spaces in her contacts or the absence of girls' night out photos. It is a battle to stay resilient when the silence of her surroundings becomes deafening, when the shadows of self-doubt creep in and tell her that something must be wrong with her. The world, bustling with its noise and commotion, often overlooks the quiet warriors, those who move through life without a band of supporters by their side. But in that quiet space, there is a story of strength, of deep reflection, and of a resilience that runs deeper than most will ever know. Because when there is no one there to remind her of her worth, she must remind herself. When there is no external echo of reassurance, she learns to create that echo within. There are tears that fall in the solitude of a late night, whispers of "Am I enough?" spoken into the still air. There are moments when she questions if anyone truly sees her or cares to. But still, she rises each day, determined to show up, to live fully in a world that often overlooks those who don't fit the mold of being surrounded, adored, or connected. This silent struggle is not just a tale of loneliness, it's a testament to what it means to keep going when you feel unseen, to find hope in yourself when the world offers none. Amid the quiet of a life with few external voices, there lies an often overlooked but profound power, the power of self-reflection. For a woman who navigates life without friends, this power is not a choice but a necessity. When the laughter of shared memories is absent and the comfort of companionship is distant, the only conversation she has left is the one she holds with herself. And while that may seem lonely to many, it can be one of the most transformative dialogues a person can have. Self-reflection isn't just looking into a mirror and seeing what the world sees, it's gazing beyond the surface, into the depths where fears, dreams, regrets, and truths dwell. It is in these moments of solitude that she unravels who she really is. Without the chorus of external opinions or the influence of others' expectations, she is free to explore her own thoughts, feelings, and desires with a level of honesty that few people ever reach. There's a unique kind of growth that comes from this process. It's the kind of growth that roots deep within her, anchoring her firmly to her own essence. She learns what drives her, what scares her, and what lifts her spirit. She comes face to face with her imperfections and discovers that it's okay to stumble, to be flawed, and to embrace the journey of becoming. This level of introspection fosters a resilience that glows quietly within her like an ember that stays warm even on the coldest days. The power of self-reflection doesn't only lead her to understand herself, it molds her into her own guide, her own motivator, her own healer. When there's no friend to talk through a rough day, she becomes the listener who comforts herself with patience and understanding. When doubts creep in, whispering tales of inadequacy, she learns to confront them with reason, telling herself the truths she needs to hear. Through self-reflection, she becomes the architect of her own narrative, building herself up when the world is silent. In this space, she begins to discern the difference between what she truly wants and what she has been told she should want. Without the echo of friends' dreams blending with hers, she hears her voice clearly. It is here that she realizes her ambitions are uniquely her own, not colored by the aspirations or opinions of those around her. The absence of external validation teaches her that the most profound approval comes from within. There are moments when this journey into herself isn't easy. Sometimes self-reflection reveals old wounds unhealed and raw. It forces her to revisit memories that bring tears to her eyes, decisions she wishes she could change, or roads not taken. But even in the hardest moments, there is growth. For each painful truth she faces, she gains a deeper understanding of her resilience. Every revelation is a step toward accepting herself fully and unapologetically. The beauty of self-reflection is that it gives her an unwavering sense of self. When faced with challenges, she draws on this deep well of self-awareness, reminding herself of what she's already overcome. It's the quiet strength that pushes her forward when no one else is around to cheer her on. It's the understanding that while loneliness may be a part of her story, it does not define her. Self-reflection also fosters a sense of compassion that begins with herself but extends outwards. The woman who knows what it feels like to sit in silence, to question and rebuild herself, often becomes more attuned to the silent struggles of others. She learns to recognize the signs of loneliness in someone's eyes or the subtle tone of a forced smile. And because she has sat with her own pain, she holds a unique capacity for empathy, a soft, unspoken bond with others who know what it's like to feel alone. The process is one of learning to trust herself above all. When decisions need to be made, she consults the voice within, knowing that it has guided her through times when there was no one else. This voice becomes her compass, honed through hours of introspection and self-dialogue. There is a certain stigma attached to solitude, particularly when it surrounds a woman. In a world that celebrates connection, friendships, and the social glow of belonging, solitude is often viewed with suspicion or pity. When a woman walks into a room alone, or when her name isn't tagged in group photos on social media, society raises its collective eyebrow. People whisper, wonder, and sometimes judge. Why is she always by herself? Does she have any friends? The stigma of solitude is a silent yet pervasive force that can weigh heavily on those who choose or find themselves in a life marked by more solitary paths. The assumption that a woman without friends must be unhappy, difficult, or flawed is one of the most damaging myths about solitude. Society has long linked a woman's worth to her relationships, her friends, her family, her community, as if her value is measured by how many people choose to stay connected to her. The idea that a woman could thrive on her own, find fulfillment in her own company, or simply not fit into the mold of social conformity is often overlooked. What this stigma fails to recognize is the multifaceted nature of solitude. For some women, it's not a sign of failure, but a conscious choice. Perhaps she has grown tired of shallow connections and instead chooses depth over numbers. Perhaps she once had a bustling circle of friends, but time, distance, and differing life paths gradually loosened those bonds. Or perhaps her focus has been directed inward on building herself, her career, her dreams, pursuits that left less room for the maintenance of friendships. None of these reasons make her any less whole, yet the whispers and assumptions remain. This stigma extends beyond just the questioning looks and offhand remarks. It seeps into the way she is treated. A woman who is often alone is sometimes perceived as someone who doesn't belong or as someone who isn't open to connection, even when that couldn't be further from the truth. Invitations may dwindle, opportunities for companionship may become scarce, and she may find herself on the outside looking in, not because she's chosen it, but because she's been put there by a culture that equates solitude with strangeness. It's not just the external assumptions that affect her. The stigma can embed itself within, turning into an internal battle. She might start to question herself, is there something wrong with me? Why don't I have what others seem to have so effortlessly? These questions, born of societal bias, can chip away at her confidence and sense of belonging. But what many overlook is that enduring this type of questioning and rising above it requires a kind of strength that isn't always visible to the outside world. There is also the perception that a woman without friends must be cold, unapproachable, or incapable of forming bonds. This stereotype is unfair and harmful, erasing the truth of who she really is. In reality, she could be warm-hearted, open, and longing for deep, genuine connections, but unwilling to compromise her values or settle for relationships that don't resonate with her true self. This nuance is rarely seen or acknowledged in a world that rushes to judgment based on surface-level observations. The stigma of solitude can be isolating, reinforcing the very cycle it perpetuates. If she internalizes the idea that being alone equates to being lesser, she may shy away from seeking new connections, not out of fear of rejection, but out of a belief that her solitary nature somehow makes her unworthy. This can create a paradox where the woman desires companionship but feels hesitant to reach out, trapped by an invisible barrier built by society's misconceptions. But let's take a moment to consider what solitude truly means. Solitude can be a source of strength, a space where she learns to appreciate her own company, hear her own thoughts, and cultivate an identity that isn't swayed by the opinions of others. While some see solitude as an absence, for her, it can be an abundant space where she reclaims her time, energy, and peace. Yet, even as she discovers the beauty within her own quiet moments, the weight of judgment can still loom. This judgment is often subtle, masked in well-meaning comments like "you should get out more" or "you need to make more friends," as if her contentment isn't valid unless it's approved by others. The idea that she might be at peace within herself, that she could be growing, learning, and finding joy in her solitude, is a concept that challenges conventional thinking. The stigma leaves little room for the idea that a woman can be fulfilled without a bustling social life. In a society that glorifies visibility and numbers more friends, more likes, more events, a woman who steps away from that script is often seen as an anomaly. The constant narrative suggests that the more connections a person has, the more successful or happy they must be. But the truth is more complex. While friendship and community are beautiful and enriching, they are not the only paths to fulfillment. In a world where friendship and social networks are often measured by numbers and public displays, redefining what connection means becomes an essential act, especially for a woman without friends. To many, connection is synonymous with gatherings, photos tagged on social media, or a phone that never stops buzzing with texts. But for a woman who navigates life without that traditional social safety net, the meaning of connection takes on new and powerful dimensions. Redefining connection starts with an understanding that human bonds are not limited to the circles we see in front of us. Connection is more profound than the number of people who show up to a party in her name or the friends who remember her birthday. For a woman who often stands alone, connection might not be captured in the typical snapshots of life, but it is present in subtler, more intimate forms. It might be in the way she interacts with a neighbor she barely knows but greets with genuine kindness, or the shared smile with a stranger that brightens a fleeting moment in her day. These small exchanges, though overlooked by many, carry weight in her world. For her, connection can be about quality over quantity. A conversation with one person who truly listens and understands can mean more than a dozen casual acquaintances who barely know her. It can be about the bonds that, though infrequent, are profound: an old friend who calls once a year but makes the call count, or the few family members with whom trust and love run deep. These are the connections that may not be constant but are genuine, unburdened by pretense or superficiality. There is also a unique type of connection found in her relationship with the world itself. A woman who often finds herself without the company of friends can develop a deep sense of belonging that extends beyond people. She might find solace in nature, in the rustle of leaves as the wind sweeps through a park, or in the rhythmic crash of waves at the shore. These moments remind her that connection isn't only about human interactions, it's about feeling a part of something larger, something that requires no words and no reciprocation. Redefining connection also means turning inward and discovering a profound relationship with herself. When she walks a path without the constant noise of social chatter, she becomes attuned to her inner voice. She learns to comfort herself in times of need, to celebrate her wins even when there's no one around to cheer. and to build herself up when life's challenges arise. This deep self-nurturing connection might be misunderstood by those who equate self-sufficiency with isolation, but to her, it is the foundation of resilience and contentment. In her world, connection can also come from shared experiences, even if they happen silently and separately. She might read a book that resonates so strongly it feels like a friend in her hands, or watch a film that speaks to her unspoken thoughts. Through art, music, and story, she taps into the emotions and ideas of people she has never met, feeling understood and part of a wider collective of human experience. These indirect connections remind her that she is not alone in her feelings or her journey, even if her life isn't filled with the typical markers of friendship. Technology, often criticized for creating superficial connections, can paradoxically offer her meaningful ways to reach out. In online communities centered around shared passions or ideas, she can find voices that mirror her own, exchanging messages with someone thousands of miles away who understands her struggles or joys. These digital ties, though often dismissed by traditionalists, can bring real comfort and a sense of solidarity that transcends borders. Redefining connection also means acknowledging that friendship, while beautiful, is not the only form of meaningful bond. Acts of kindness, whether given or received, hold a different type of connection. The elderly person she helps carry groceries, or the compliment she receives from a passerby, can become moments of warmth that remind her of shared humanity. It is in these gestures, often fleeting yet genuine, that she finds connection reaffirmed. However, this redefinition isn't always without its challenges. Society's view of connection remains heavily skewed toward the visible and conventional. The pressure to conform to the idea that happiness stems from social abundance can make her question her choices or circumstances. But each time she embraces her version of connection, she chips away at this narrative, reminding herself that fulfillment doesn't have a single template. There is an undeniable power in a woman who learns to embrace her inner strength, particularly when that strength has been forged in solitude. A woman without the support of a close network of friends often faces challenges that others may never encounter. The path she walks requires resilience, self-belief, and a depth of courage that isn't always visible on the surface, but is felt in every decision she makes, every obstacle she overcomes, and every quiet triumph she claims. Embracing inner strength begins with the understanding that true power comes from within. For a woman who navigates life without a chorus of supporters or confidants, the realization that she is her own anchor is both daunting and empowering. It means learning to be her own advocate, nurturing herself through tough times, and standing firm in her values even when the world around her wavers. It's a journey that often starts with uncertainty but grows into an unshakable belief in her capabilities. This inner strength is cultivated in moments that may seem ordinary to others but are transformative to her. When she faces difficult choices, she doesn't have a friend group to lean on for consensus or validation. Instead, she listens closely to her intuition, weighing her options, trusting her instincts, and making decisions that align with her true self. Each time she chooses to act, despite fear or doubt, her inner strength deepens. It becomes a well she can draw from during future challenges, proving to herself time and time again that she is enough. There is also a unique resilience that comes from learning to pick herself up after setbacks. Without a safety net of friends to console her, she becomes adept at self-comfort. Whether it's through journaling her thoughts, meditating, or simply sitting with her feelings and allowing them to pass, she develops a toolkit of self-soothing practices that fortify her spirit. These are not signs of weakness, but of profound strength, the strength to face emotions head on and find peace without needing to externalize the struggle. Embracing inner strength also means recognizing the voice of self-doubt, but choosing not to let it steer her course. When a woman is isolated, it can be easy for insecurities to echo loudly in her mind. Thoughts like, why am I alone? Is there something wrong with me? Can creep in, threatening to undermine her confidence. But the woman who harnesses her inner strength learns to confront these doubts, speaking to herself with kindness and compassion. She reframes her narrative, seeing her solitude not as a deficiency, but as an opportunity for self-growth and independence. The ability to rewrite her own story, to find empowerment within her solitude, is a testament to the resilience of her spirit. Strength is not just about facing the hard moments, it's about celebrating herself when victories come, even if there's no one else there to clap. Embracing inner strength involves taking pride in her achievements, big and small, without external validation. It's about acknowledging that her hard work, her persistence, and her unique journey are worthy of recognition. She learns to be her own cheerleader, to pause and appreciate her progress, and to find joy in her own company. The world may not always see or celebrate her milestones, but she learns that her own acknowledgement is enough. Inner strength allows her to navigate life with authenticity. In a world that often pressures individuals to conform, a woman without friends may feel that urge to fit in even more acutely. But when she embraces her inner strength, she chooses to show up as her true self, not a version molded by others' expectations. This authenticity, rooted in her inner power, frees her to live in alignment with her values. It may mean saying no when it would be easier to say yes, or choosing a path less traveled, even if it means walking it alone. Her decisions are not dictated by the desire to please others, but by the quiet confidence that she knows what is best for her. Embracing inner strength also equips her to seek out what nourishes her soul. Without the constant influence of friends' opinions or societal trends, she has the space to discover what truly brings her joy. Whether it's an unusual hobby, an unconventional career path, or a lifestyle choice that deviates from the norm, she learns to trust her desires and follow where they lead. This exploration of her own interests and passions deepens her connection with herself and strengthens her sense of identity. Moreover, inner strength gives her the courage to remain open to connection, even when it's not readily present. She understands that choosing herself doesn't mean closing herself off from the world. On the contrary, her strength allows her to approach new experiences and relationships with a full heart, not out of desperation, but out of a genuine desire to share who she has become. She knows that if she finds meaningful connection, it will be built on a foundation of authenticity, not on the need to fill a void. And when life presents her with moments of profound loneliness, as it inevitably will, she leans on the knowledge that she has survived similar moments before. The memories of her past resilience remind her that she is capable of enduring, that solitude is not a void, but a space that she has learned to navigate and make her own. In these moments, she doesn't deny the difficulty, but she does not crumble under it. Instead, she acknowledges her emotions, allows herself to feel them, and rises once more stronger than before. Her inner strength is a quiet, steady force. It's not always loud or attention-seeking. It doesn't need to be. It's there in the way she walks through life, in the choices she makes, and in the way she treats herself with respect, kindness, and unwavering support. Embracing this strength is not just about surviving solitude, but about thriving in it, using it as a canvas on which she paints a life that is wholly her own. The world may look at her and see a woman without friends, but she knows the truth. She is a woman with herself, and that she has discovered is the most powerful connection of all.